Amelia Tregarron first heard the cliff railway before she ever saw it. A breathy clank carried on a salted wind, half lullaby, half machinery. It climbed the headland between Polgarroch village and the upper meadow where the church sat, its two slate-roofed cars forever counterbalancing one another, tethered by a cable older than most residents. The gentle rhythm suited Amelia's retirement plans, quiet mornings volunteering at the ticket booth, afternoons arranging her late husband's seashell collection, evenings watching gulls wheel above the cove. Polgarroch looked harmless enough. Rows of granite cottages, a harbour pub called the Lobster Pot, and the stalwart railway that had hauled holidaymakers since 1898. But on her third week behind the booth window, Amelia began to suspect the place hid clockwork secrets. It started with the tickets themselves. The machine spat out stiff rectangles of cream card inked with the railway's monogram, and more precisely than any seaside attraction needed, the exact second of purchase. The mechanism had been donated from some decommissioned London tube barrier. The villagers were proud of its accuracy, calling it Big Ben on cardboard. Yet for 4 days in a row, Amelia noticed odd clusters. 6 or 7 tickets bought at 04:11 a.m, another burst at 23:37 p.m, then silence for hours. No passengers ever appeared at those times. Amelia knew because at dawn her neighbour Ned Penwellin, formerly of the Coast Guard, took over the booth until breakfast, and Ned swore the platform stayed empty. So who or what was printing the tickets? She consulted the ledger Mr. Bligh, the station master, kept in a lockable drawer. It revealed those phantom timestamps stretched back months. Alongside each, Mr. Bligh had initialed Auto, apparently shorthand for the machine's self-test. Amelia wasn't convinced. The railway was many things, picturesque, creaky, syrup-slow, but it was not self-anything. Curiosity had been Amelia's profession. She'd run the local studies room in Truro Library for 35 years. She began to cross-reference tide tables, a habit left from helping yachtsmen decipher old charts. High tide that week arrived at 04:19 and 23:45, within minutes of the ticket bursts. Coincidence? Possibly, but coastal villages are stitched together by tides as tightly as by gossip, and coincidences seldom stay solitary. She confided in Ned over a cream tea at the Lobster Pot, insisting on jam first, as proper Cornish etiquette demanded. Ned listened, tilting his head like a cormorant sizing up a fish. "Smugglers," he ventured. "Wouldn't be the first time Polgarroch slipped contraband through a cave or two." "Smuggling ended when corsets did," Amelia replied, though not entirely convinced herself. "Still, the alignment bothers me." Ned scratched his grizzled chin. "I'll walk the cliffs tonight. You work tomorrow's dawn shift. We'll compare notes." That evening, mist drifted ashore so thick the harbour lights glowed like damp embers. Ned, dressed in his old Coast Guard waterproofs, disappeared into the haze, while Amelia lingered by her cottage window, unable to settle. At 22:00 she made tea, at 23:00 she reheated it, and at 23:32 she abandoned the cup entirely, wrapping a shawl over her cardigan and heading for the station. If adventure beckoned, she refused to let Ned claim all the credit. By torchlight, Amelia unlocked the booth, the sea's hush below her, and the railway's iron spine vanishing upward into dark. The ticket machine slept, power light blinking lazily. At 23:36 the mechanism whirred. No hand touched it, no coin dropped through the slot, yet out popped 6 tickets, neat, fresh, their timestamps marching across the seconds, 23:36, 59, 60, 23:37, 01, and so on. Amelia's heart hammered like a tide bell. She pocketed the cards, reset the drawer, switched off the booth light, and peered across the platform. Nothing but mist and the faint smell of engine grease. Sudden footsteps behind. She spun, her shawl snagged on the latch. "Steady on, Miss Tregarren." It was Mr. Bligh, wool cap pulled low. "Didn't expect to see anyone." "I was auditing," Amelia improvised. "The machine printed tickets by itself, again." Bligh's moustache twitched. "Electrical gremlins. I'll have a word with the engineer." He stepped inside, opened a rear panel, and flicked a switch Amelia didn't know existed. The power light died. "Best if we leave it off overnight," he said. Amelia murmured agreement, but noted Bligh pocketed the spent tickets before she could protest. A whisper of unease followed her home. In bed she heard Ned return at 1 his footfalls padding across gravel, but resisted the urge to interrogate him through the hedge. Next morning they met in the village shop under the pretext of comparing cauliflower prices. Ned looked vexed. "Fog was too thick," he said. "Didn't fancy breaking my neck on the cliffs. Any luck your end?" She recounted the phantom tickets and Bligh's evasiveness. Ned whistled. "Old Bligh's a stickler for procedure. If he's fiddling, someone's pressure washing his morals." Amelia retrieved one card she had managed to retain before Bligh's sweep. The timestamp read 23:36:59, but another detail stood out. A faint watermark, like crossed anchors, visible only when held against the shop's fluorescent strip. "Not from our stock," Ned muttered. "Our tickets have the railway monogram, a wheel and cable." Amelia slid the card into her purse. "Someone's swapped blanks, meaning printing phantoms is deliberate, not a machine hiccup." Ned jabbed a finger at the shop's notice board, where the weekly Cliff Railway maintenance rota hung. "See tomorrow? Closed to public from noon for private hire." Councillor Jocelyn Carbis booked it for some heritage film shoot. Amelia knew Jocelyn. Artfully wind-swept hair, a passion for grant funding, and an uncanny ability to appear in journalists' lenses. The councillor chaired the committee that installed the new ticket machine, she recalled. The puzzle pieces insinuated themselves like damp into stone. Bogus tickets, odd timings, a heritage facade. If smugglers still plied these shores, modern convenience would be their accomplice. Under the guise of night, the railway's carriage might lower crates to a ledge beneath the station, a ledge reachable from sea at high tide. The timestamps could be signals printed in duplicate, one set sent ashore, the other retained, to confirm drop-offs. "We need proof," Amelia said. "Tonight." Ned grinned, white moustache crinkling. "I'll fetch my night vision binoculars." That afternoon they prepared. Ned borrowed a dinghy, beached near Kessel Cove, and stowed in it a waterproof satchel containing two-way radios, a thermos of coffee, and half a Victoria sponge Amelia insisted upon for moral fibre. She would station herself in the upper carriage disguised as a seat scrubber, while Ned watched from the waterline. Shortly before midnight, Amelia slipped past Bligh's office. The station master was absent, though a sulphurous lamp glowed within, illuminating ledgers. She crept into carriage A, toting a bucket and rag as camouflage. Once inside, she clicked the radio. "Badger to Otter," she whispered. "Otter here," Ned answered, voice muffled by surf. The railway groaned. Carriage B at the cliff's crest jolted downward. Someone controlled the winch remotely. Amelia crouched behind a timber bench. The doors remained open, convenient for unlading parcels. Through the fog wisping along the track, she saw movement. Two figures in high-vis vests wheeled a dolly stacked with crate after crate, each the size of a shoebox, plastic sealed. They loaded the stack into carriage A beside her hiding spot. A crowbar clanged. Someone cursed softly in Cornish. When the men retreated, Amelia inched closer, heart rattling. She peeled back plastic. Inside lay smartphones, dozens of them, brand new foreign models. Smuggling indeed, but not rum or tobacco, electronics. The radio crackled. "Movement on the beach," Ned warned. Amelia peered out the carriage door. Below, grey waves lapped a shelf of sand, where a small REB, a rigid inflatable boat, bobbed. 2 more figures hauled crates over rocks. The sea team stacked them beside a hidden cave mouth, unseen from the coastal path. Winch motors hummed. Carriage A began its descent. Amelia's stomach swooped. She couldn't risk being ferried to conspirators, yet jumping off a moving cable car ranked low on her bucket list. "Going down," she whispered into her radio. "If I'm discovered, raise the alarm." "Understood." Ned's tone hardened. The car's wheels squealed, stopping halfway, exactly where the track crossed an old maintenance balcony jutting from the cliff. Lanterns glimmered. The vests reappeared, unchaining side rails, forming a ramp. With methodical ease they slid the crates onto the balcony. From below, another pulley rope snaked up. Beach crew connected it to the load and lowered it out of Amelia's sight. Timestamp tickets, she realized, weren't just signals. They paired with crates. Each phantom purchase represented one batch. The machine printed duplicates, one retained by shore crew, one by conspirators inland, ensuring accountability. A paper trail, literally. Adrenaline lent Amelia boldness. When the men turned their backs, she extracted her notebook, scribbling plate numbers she glimpsed on the crates. Her pen scraped paper too loudly. A head snapped her way. "What's that?" shouted the shorter smuggler, torch beams sweeping. Amelia abandoned caution. She thrust the ragged cloth over her head, adopting her best tremulous librarian voice. "Inspections, gentlemen. Council cleanliness audit." For a beat, astonishment rendered them mute. Then the tall smuggler laughed. "Bly said no one else'd be here." The shorter advanced. "How'd you get in, old girl?" Amelia clutched her bucket. "Master key, dirt everywhere, warrants attention." They exchanged glances. The shorter pulled a phone. "Call Councillor Carbis." That name, drawn like a blade, confirmed Amelia's suspicions. She needed extraction now. She raised the bucket. Sanitizer splash incoming, and heaved the contents. Soapy water cascaded. The men cursed, and Amelia bolted past them, skidding onto the track ties. Her sensible shoes lacked heroics. She stumbled, regained footing, dashed uphill toward the station, lungs burning. Behind, pounding steps. She triggered her radio. "Emergency, Otter. Meet me top platform. Activate plan Foxglove." "On my way," Ned replied. She could hear engine revs echo from the cove. He'd started the dinghy's outboard. Amelia emerged onto the upper platform, legs wobbling. No staff, no tourists, just a lamplight and feral fog. The clock read 04. She raced to the booth, flung open the drawer. Stacks of phantom tickets sat labelled by date. She swept them into her canvas tote. A hiss cut through the night. Bly, stepping from his office doorway. "Miss Tregarren, you shouldn't meddle." He carried a flare pistol, maritime issue, its red casing ominous. "Put that down," Amelia insisted. "I wish I could." His voice quavered with regret. "My niece. The councillor promised treatment fees if I helped." "She tricked you. This ends tonight." Footsteps thundered up the stairs, smugglers giving chase. Bly's eyes darted. "Go," he whispered, and slipped inside his office, slamming the door, barricading himself against his own accomplices. Amelia sprinted along the service path behind the station, where bracken grew thick. Ned's old Land Rover burst from the lane, headlights off. He popped the passenger door. Amelia dove in. They rattled downhill toward the harbour as a rocket flare streaked skyward from the station platform, bursting crimson. Alarm or signal, she wasn't sure. "Evidence!" Ned yelled over the engine. She hauled up the tote. Enough timestamps to wallpaper the courthouse. Police in seaside towns are used to small hours drama. Sergeant Prowse, summoned by Ned's earlier contingency call, waited outside the harbour office sipping thermos tea. When Amelia unloaded the tickets, her notebook, and details of crates, Prowse's eyebrows lifted so high they nearly cleared his cap brim. "We'd a tip about a stolen electronics pipeline," he admitted. "Never guessed they'd use the cliff railway as a lift shaft." By dawn, constables had arrested 3 men on the beach and another group farther inland where a van idled, crates inside. Councillor Jocelyn Carbis, confronted at her Victorian villa, attempted indignation, but Bligh's statement, combined with the timestamp trove, left her protestations flailing like line-caught mackerel. 2 days later, Polgarok woke to sunshine, and speculation served with breakfast kippers. Amelia sat on the harbour wall, sharing the local newspaper with Ned. The headline, "Railway Ring Nabbed by Retired Librarian." The subheading bore an unflattering picture of Amelia mid-gasp, shawl aflutter like sails on a squall. "Not how I envisioned my debut," she sighed. "Heroism rarely flatters," Ned chuckled, snapping shut the paper. "But you saved Bligh's conscience and the railway's reputation." Bligh had resigned, but with a recommendation for leniency after he assisted police. His niece's treatment fund would be covered by a respectable charity once Carbis's frozen assets thawed. Later that week, Sergeant Prowse invited Amelia and Ned to review confiscated items at the station. She entered the once-shadowed office, its papers sealed in evidence packets, cables unplugged, the ticket machine silent. Prowse handed her a single card stamped 0 blank but for time. "Machine's back to factory settings," he said. "You helped break its bad habits." Amelia smiled. The cardboard felt light as spring gull feathers. "Perhaps we could repurpose it for something pleasant." "Such as?" she considered. "A community poetry project. Print lines with each ticket. Visitors ride the cliff, take home verse." Prowse laughed. "Leave it with me. Polgarok could use more rhymes than crimes." Outside, the gulls wheeled, free of secrets heavier than mackerel bones. The cliff railway cars, freshly inspected and blessed by health and safety, glinted in low sunlight as they resumed their old, honest routine. Ferrying holidaymakers from harbour to headland, nothing more illicit than sticky fingers on handrails. Yet Amelia kept the first phantom ticket she'd pocketed, watermark faint beneath anchored light. She pinned it to her cottage corkboard above the seashell display, a reminder that mysteries, like tides, ebb and flow, and that retired librarians should never shelve their curiosity. If coastal whispers ever swelled again, about strange flashes offshore, or times stamped too precisely, Amelia Tregarron would be ready, shawl, notebook, and a bucket of soapy water at hand.